"4," says I. Then the others turned and hightailed it, letting the stolen hosses run where they wanted to. One of 'em headed south, but I was crowding Gomez so clost he whirled round and lit a shuck west. "Keep back or I kill the girl!" he howled, lifting a knife, but I shot it out of his hand and he gave a yowl and let go of her and she fell off into the high grass. He kept fogging it. I pulled up to see if Betty was hurt, but she warn't, just scared. The grass cushioned her fall. I seen her pap and sech of the boys as was able to ride was all coming at a high run, so I left her to them and taken in after Gomez again. Pretty soon he looked back and seen me overhauling him, so he reached for his Winchester, which he'd evidently just thought of using, when about that time his hoss stepped into a prairie dog hole and throwed him over his head. Gomez never twitched after he hit the ground. I turned around and rode back, cussing disgustedly, because a Elkins is ever truthful, and I couldn't honestly count Gomez in my record. But I thought I'd scuttle that coyote that runs south, so I headed in that direction. I hadn't gone far when I heard a lot of hosses running somewhere ahead of me and to the east, and then presently I bust out of the trees and come onto a flat which run to the mouth of a narrow gorge opening into the main canyon. On the left wall of this gorge mouth they was a ledge about 50 foot up, and they was a log cabin on that ledge with loopholes in the walls. The only way up onto the ledge was a log ladder, and about 20 Mexicans was running their hosses toward it across the flat. Just as I reached the edge of the bushes, they got to the foot of the wall and jumped off their hosses and run up that ladder like monkeys, letting their hosses run anyways. I seen a big feller with gold ornaments on his sombrero, which I figured was Zamora, but before I could unlimber my Winchester, they was all in the cabin and slammed the door. The next minute Cousin Bearfield busted out of the trees a few hundred yards east of where I was and started recklessly across the flat. Immediately all them Mexicans started shooting at him, and he grudgingly retired into the brush again with terrible language. I yelled and rode toward him, keeping to the trees. "How many you got?" he bellered as soon as he seen me. "4," I says, and he grinned like a timber wolf and says, "I got 5. I was riding for my camp when I heard the shooting behind me, so I knowed it was your camp they hit first. I turned round to go back and help you out. When did I ever ask you for any help?" I bristled. Then he said, "But pretty soon I seen a gang of Mexicans coming round the north end of the ridge, so I taken cover and shot 5 of 'em out of their saddles. They must have knowed it was me, because they hightailed it." "How could they know that, you conceited jackass?" I snorted. "They run off because they probably thought a whole gang had ambushed 'em." Old man Richardson and his boys had rode up whilst we was talking, and now he broke in with some heat and said, "That ain't the question. The pint is we got 'em hemmed up on that ledge for the time being, and can get away before they come down and massacre us." "What you talking about?" I roared. "They're the ones which is in need of getting away. If any massacreeing is did around here, we does it." "It's flying in the face of Providence," he bleated. But I told him sternly to shut up, and Bearfield says, "Send somebody over to my camp to bring my warriors." So I told Ned to go, and he pulled out. Then me and Bearfield studied the situation, setting our horses in the open whilst bullets from the cabin whistled all around us, and the Richardsons hid in the brush and begged us to be careful. "That ledge is sheer on all sides," says Bearfield. "Nobody couldn't climb down onto it from the cliff, and anybody trying to climb that ladder in the teeth of 20 Winchesters would be plumb crazy." But I says, "Look, Bearfield, how the ledge overhangs about 10 foot to the left of that ladder. A man could stand at the foot of the bluff there, and them coyotes couldn't see to shoot him." "And," says Bearfield, "he could sling his rope up over that spur of rock at the rim, and they couldn't shoot it off. Only way to get to it would be to come out of the cabin and reach down and cut it with a knife. Door opens toward the ladder, and there ain't no door in the wall on that side. A man could climb right up onto the ledge before they knowed it, if they didn't shoot him through the loopholes as he come over the rim." "You stay here and shoot 'em when they tries to cut the rope," I says. "You go to hell!" he roared. "I see through your hellish plot. You aims to git up there and kill all them Mexes before I has a chance at 'em. You thinks you'll outwit me. By golly, I got my rights and—" "Aw, shut up," I says disgustedly. "We'll both go." I hollered to Old Man Richardson, "You all lay low in the bresh and shoot at every Mex which comes out of the cabin." "What you going to do now?" he hollered. "Don't be rash." But me and Bearfield was already heading for the ledge at a dead run. This move surprised the Mexicans because they knowed we couldn't figure to ride our hosses up that ladder. Being surprised, they shot wild, and all they done was graze my sculp and nick Bearfield's ear. Then, just as they began to get their range and start trimming us close, we swerved aside and thundered in under the overhanging rock. We clumb off and tied our horses well apart, otherwise they'd have started fighting each other. The Mexicans above us was yelling most amazing, but they couldn't even see us, much less shoot us. I whirled my lariat, which is plenty longer and stronger than the average lasso, and roped the spur of rock which jutted up just below the rim. "I'll go up first," I says, and Bearfield showed his teeth and drawed his bowie knife. "You won't neither," says he. "We'll cut cards. High man wins." So we squatted, and Old Man Richardson yelled from the trees, "For God's sake, what are you doing now? They're fixing to roll rocks down onto you." "You tend to your own business," I advised him, and shuffled the cards which Bearfield hauled out of his breeches. As it turned out, the Mexes had a supply of boulders in the cabin. They just opened the door and rolled them toward the rim, but they shot off the ledge and hit beyond us. Bearfield cut and yelped. "A ace! You can't beat that." "I can equal it," I says, and drawed an ace of diamonds. "Ah, wins!" he clamored. "Hearts beats diamonds." "That rule don't apply here," I says. "It were a draw, and—" "Why, you—" says Bearfield, leaning forward to grab the deck, and just then a rock about the size of a bushel basket come bounding over the ledge and hit a projection, which turned its course, so instead of shooting over us, it fell straight down and hit Bearfield smack between the ears. It stunned him for an instant, and I jumped up and started climbing the rope, ignoring more rocks which was thundering down. I was about halfway up when Bearfield came to, and he riz with a beller of rage. "Why, you dirty double-crossing so-and-so," says he, and started throwing rocks at me. They was a awful racket, the Mexicans howling, guns banging, Bearfield cussing, and Old Man Richardson wailing. "They're crazy, I tell you. They're both crazy as mud hens. I think everybody west of the Pecos must be maniacs." Bearfield grabbed the rope and started climbing up behind me, and about that time one of the Mexicans run to cut the rope. But for once my idiotic followers was on the job. He run into about 7 bullets that hit him all to once, and fell down just above the spur where the loop was caught onto. So when I retched my arm over the rim to pull myself up, they couldn't see me on account of the body. But just as I was pulling myself up, they let go of a boulder at random, and it bounded along and bounced over the dead Mexican and hit me right smack in the face. It was about as big as a pumpkin. I give a infuriated beller and swarmed up onto the ledge, and it surprised 'em so that most of 'em missed me clean. I only got one slug through the arm. Before they had time to shoot again, I made a jump to the wall and flattened myself between the loopholes, and grabbed the rifle barrels they poked through the loopholes and bent 'em and ruined 'em. Bearfield was coming up the rope right behind me, so I grabbed hold of the logs and tore that whole side of the wall out, and the roof fell in and the other walls come apart. In an instant all you could see was logs falling and rolling, and Mexicans busting out into the open. Some got pinned by the fallen logs, and some was shot by my embattled Kansans and Bearfield's Illinois warriors, which had just come up, and some fell off of the ledge and broke their fool necks. One of 'em run agin me and tried to stab me, so I throwed him after them, which had already fell off the ledge, and hollered, "5 for me, Bearfield." "Expletive deleted," says Bearfield, arriving onto the scene with blood in his eye and his bowie in his hand. Seeing which, a big Mexican made for him with a butcher knife, which was poor judgment on his part, and in about the flick of a mustang's tail, Bearfield had a 6th man to his credit. Now this made me mad. I seen some of the Mexicans was climbing down the ladder, so I run after them, and one turned around and missed me so close with a shotgun he burnt my eyebrows. I taken it away from him and hit him over the head with it and yelled, "Six for me too, Cousin Bearfield." "Look out," he yelled. "Zamora's getting away." I seen Zamora had tied a rope to the back side of the ledge and was sliding down it. He dropped the